Welcome, guys, to the first episode of my last trip. This was supposed to be called that African trip, but I thought it would be really interesting to talk about the last African trip that someone went to. I don't know if it makes sense, but it will make sense later on, probably episode 200. But Tatenda graciously volunteered to be the first guest on the show, and we'll ask her to introduce herself and what she does.
Yeah, so this is kind of fun being the first guest. I'm Tatenda. So I'm a PhD student now in neuroscience, and I thought it's a great idea. I know, yes, it's a great idea to talk about traveling in Africa. I feel like more people need to do it. More people need to understand the experience and what's the allure of traveling to Africa. So we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah, and where was the last place that you went to in Africa?
The last place is one that even you're very familiar with. It was South Africa. So that was my last trip. Actually, it was it was my last big trip as well.
When was this?
This was South Africa or Morocco. Sure. I might tell you about Morocco because that was a little bit more different. I feel like South Africa, you can sort of I want to tell you about Morocco because that was a very different experience for me.
Was it the last trip that
No. but you know why I'm going to tell you about Morocco? As a Southern African, I can talk about South Africa all day because it almost feels like home.
And Morocco?
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Morocco's different. Morocco's so different. So I think as a Southern African, I'm going to say it was my last trip not in Southern Africa. So I get to go about this. And I think there was a little bit more planning. There's a lot more to it because with South Africa, I rely on family. So it's a different experience. With Morocco, I had to think about everything, I had to think about, do they need visas there? What's the travel like? What languages do they speak? Do you know what I mean? So we're going to go with Morocco. So Morocco is my last trip not in Southern Africa. As a Southern African, I think I'm going to get away with that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then what was the thought process of choosing Morocco? Was it on the top of your bucket list, or was it one of those trips that just came out and you're like, let's go with it?
You know what? It was because people had spoken about Morocco. Had a lot of people talk about Morocco. Some people had they were the way people spoke about the culture was so different to anything I'd ever experienced. It's not so westernized. I guess their colonial profile is a little bit different to Zimbabwe or South Africa, I guess. So they have a slightly different way of life. The majority of the country is a different religion to what I've been around. So they're mostly Muslim as opposed to Christians. So it's a very different culture. So I thought, you know what, I am going to go to Morocco, and it's a very short flight from England. It's 4 hours. That's perfect.
And in terms of with the planning and the budgeting, how did you how long did you plan for the trip, and how was it?
I think I planned for the trip probably 3 months before. So this was a birthday trip, so it was about 3 months before the actual trip, and so I had very specific things that I wanted because I don't know anything about the country really. So I needed to check where you can stay safely and stuff like that, because it was 2 girls traveling. So you always kind of think about those things. So the best thing to always do is start off with TripAdvisor. They'll give you a good rundown of what these places are, because with Morocco there's a lot of different places to stay. So you can stay obviously in your hotels, but if you want a more authentic feel, you stay in the riads. So they're bed and breakfast places. They're smaller, they're very traditional, they're beautiful just like beautiful like live places. They're just so nice, and they give you a really authentic feel. Because I feel like if you stay in a hotel in Marrakesh, you don't really get the full experience, if that makes sense.
You get the
So, hmm?
you get the bougie experience.
Yeah, but you see, I think this is the greatest. Yeah, so TripAdvisor. So in obviously in Morocco, Marrakesh, everyone speaks French. So my initial planning, I don't speak French. I can understand very little from high school. So I had to think about, okay, where I'm going to stay, I need the host. So like with hotels, you're almost guaranteed they can speak some English. But with the riads, I was like, okay, it makes sense that I find someone who speaks English, which is one of the things that on TripAdvisor will tell you whether the host of the place they speak English or not. And you try and find it because it's kind of places like TripAdvisor are amazing because it's rated, so you're gonna go for the best ones. You think about your price, your budget. I couldn't go for the very best one, so I could go middle ground. So I had to compromise and think about what do I want. Do I want the luxury, or like what am I thinking about as well? Also location. I had to think about like location, where exactly I wanted to be in the city. So there's sort of the old town, they call it, and the new town. So initially wanted to be like in the old town, which is sort of where you have a more dense population of the riads. And also it's like a little bit further away from like the tourist sites, but there's still things around there. So you sort of travel through, if that makes sense. Whereas opposed to living, a lot of the hotels, they're like close to the malls and stuff like that. So I wasn't really going to get a different experience than if I was just in England.
And in terms of visas, like, okay,
Well, no, I didn't need any visas. Shout out to being British. Shout out to the Queen. But like with any countries where you travel, you just get days in the country. So just all we had to do was get at the airport and say where you're staying, how many days you intend on staying, and they'll give you like 30 days or something in the country.
nice.
So
That's passport, right?
it's a joy, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. They're turning it blue, but all is well.
Yeah, and then like so like it's interesting. So like the trip advisor, like what did you think around content like for black people? I think like in terms of like black people experience, I don't know if that makes sense.
Do you know what? TripAdvisor wasn't so great with that. I think TripAdvisor really just gives you very basic content. It'll give you, hey, what it's near to, price and stuff. Because like I always think as a black person traveling anywhere, you kind of have to think about those things. Like, hey, like, is this country? That's when you and Google are best friends. Like, what's the safety profile of this country? I know it's a very weird thing to like ask Google, but it's like, how are black people treated in this country? Because I'm not trying to go anywhere and be stuck there or just have an uncomfortable feeling. So stuff with Morocco, like there wasn't anything overwhelmingly bad about it, but there wasn't like a direct place to go for that. Like nowadays, I feel like there's a lot more like on Instagram. There's a couple more pages where it's like black travel, where you might have someone who's like got a similar profile to you who's traveled to the same place. But even with that, it's very rare because it's so sporadic. It's not going to give you specific countries, and I think no one really does it for Africa sometimes. So it'd be nice to know. And I think as well, some places like for women, it's always good to know as well. And I think it's always good to know what the cultural like ideals of a country are. Because like with a place like Morocco, I knew that I couldn't just like be like bare in the streets. It was like so hot. But I was like aware that, I can't like just be out here wearing whatever I want to wear. It's disrespectful. And it depends what type of person you are. I guess with Marrakesh, you'd probably just about get away with it, but it's just a little bit weird, if that makes sense. And yeah, you think about your safety and that, so you won't really get that from TripAdvisor. I mean, people's descriptions about places are just like how they felt the host was, stuff like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and how did you go there? Which airline did you use?
Which airline did I use? I can't remember what airline. I think it was Virgin. I think it was a Virgin flight. Yeah, I think it was a Virgin flight. Super quick flight. Booking it was good. It was like it's a very cheap flight, like a nice flight from England. I think it was like £150. Also, Marrakesh is like the cheapest place in the world. It's so good.
Yeah, and
Like,
then I was just going to say, like, with the flight and getting to the airport in Marrakesh, how was it? How was the experience to get to the airport, going through customs and
oh, that was
someone
pretty.
holding? Did you have someone holding a board and like, so we're waiting to
Okay, so got to the airport. Got to the airport. So this is like stuff that TripAdvisor was good for. But like, okay, you're fine. You can just get taxis outside the airport. So you're pretty good. There were taxis. So it was a pretty good transition. Only that doing it now, I would probably try and because there's local taxi companies, probably try and get my own taxi company to the airport because we ended up finding out how much more money we were paying for the distance, than if you just like get your own taxi company.
oh, you got scammed.
Yeah, but this was something that happened like for the first, because I think it was there for like 11 or something days. This happened for the first 3 days where we were just getting taxis because it felt like they were cheap, if that makes sense. Like if you change, currency wise, it felt like they were cheap. And then we were just by pure luck, we met some guys who were both British and Moroccan. And we're like, oh, like we're gonna pay a taxi. And they're like, oh, like, no, don't. Like, you can get, that's a good thing. You can get the bus from where you are. And also they're like, yeah, you're paying too much money when like, because you kind of call down taxis when you're around. You're like, oh, you see a taxi, you're like, okay. And you're like, no, they'll be like, do you want to pay this much? You're like, you should never, they know you're a tourist, you should always go for like half of what they're saying is where you should start off at. So that was a good tip. But yeah, it was very much, we got to the airport, got into a taxi, got driven to the place. And so, like I said, I chosen a person who speaks English. So when we got to the Riyadh, she was super helpful. She was really nice, but she did something that was kind of mad. so she had like a 8-bedroom place, right? I think it was like 8 bedrooms or something like that. It's not a lot, like a big place. 8-bedroom place. She double booked us, right? So she got like a party of 8 people. So she decided, okay, you guys are gonna stay here. Like there's a party of 8 people gonna stay there. So what she did for us, she put us like somewhere else. Like I said, there's like the old town is like a high population of riads, right? She got us to stay at like her friend's riad, right? Now, granted, I've taken like time, effort, and everything to find a place to stay, to make sure like to have certain requirements and I've paid a certain amount of money for this, right? And then you put us somewhere. I don't care if it's 10 minutes away, but you put us somewhere else. It's not the same standard as your place. The people who work there, no one spoke English. And that was like quite hard because we sort of, the reason why we chosen her as well, because she was also kind of like the guide to the city. That's what TripAdvisor said. That was one of the things that everyone said in their comments, that, you want to know where to go, what to do, what to eat. She is the person for that, right? And so we were kind of like there very much like, no, this is not going to run. Like, that's not happening. We paid money for this. And because we went to the place, we're like, where you put us up, it's not up to par. We'd rather really have our money back. So I was homeless in Marrakesh for a while, which is mad, which is, you should think about certain things like, hey, where I am right now, do I have the internet? Which luckily we did.
Did you guys
And then
get a SIM card or did you get like
no, so I had to use my phone and pay a horrendously expensive amount of money when my bill came the next month.
roaming?
I was roaming and, I hadn't thought about a roaming package, which I now always do. Whenever I go somewhere now, I always always think about like a roaming package, what I'm gonna do, right? Because that was an eye opener. I think I was so we I decided the easiest thing to do, logical thing to do. The Riyads have failed. I do not have enough time to do research. It is a hotel. The one thing I was trying to avoid this whole time, I was like, you know what? A hotel won't fail you, just get a nice hotel. So just went on booking.com and I was like, okay, we're just finding like a nice hotel, like reasonably priced. And yeah, we went to a nice hotel, which was right next to the mall. But so it was cool. It was cool. So there was that. So sometimes when you're dealing with smaller establishments, you have to think about, how certain things might change. So I'd always think I know it sounds like a weird thing, but I was like, I would always think about a backup plan. I'll think about a backup plan for transport, you know, and sometimes even though TripAdvisor will tell you good things, that person will turn out to be a great person for the first hour you meet her, but she'll have other plans for your stay. So, I don't know. So sometimes, authenticity feels great, but a hotel will not let you down.
No, that's very interesting. That's very interesting that you say that because I had a similar experience um, recently with Airbnb and book and then get double booked or something happens and then like the accommodation that we booked is unlisted and this guy is like, no, I've got another one close by, I can put you in. I'm like, no, but like, I spent 3 hours looking for this one and then like it had the right things and then now
Do you know what I mean?
and then
Yeah.
I have to come blind because I don't know where I'm coming to and all of that and then we didn't want to cancel and I didn't want to cancel because then you get charged.
You get charged, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then ended up canceling because he didn't want to cancel and you're supposed to take him tomorrow and it was just a mess. So like that's one of my traveling that you need a plan B and the plan
Plan B.
C for the plan B and the plan
Yeah,
C.
because transport and accommodation. Just think about where you are. Is because sometimes also with these things, maybe you see a place in pictures or whatever, and then you get there, it's not what you want. It's just good to like sort of think ahead and go, okay, is there anywhere else? And with places like booking.com is great because you can pay on premise when you get to the place, right? So I just think it's a good thing that you can book a couple places and then like get to one, but it depends on the place because some places don't have a no cancellation fees, so you have to be careful with stuff like that. So yeah, it's I think booking.com is a great site.
And like so you are in the hotel now and you sorted out the accommodation bit.
We're in the hotel, so the hotel didn't have like a restaurant, so had to figure out food. That was like first thing because I think we got there in the afternoon, but we were like a little bit tired. So we're like, okay, let's figure out food. And we're like, okay. Well, the hotel did have food actually. I lied. They had food, but the restaurant was not great. It was fun. I remember it was fun in the restaurant, but it wasn't great. So I think we decided that the only thing we're gonna do there is like have drinks and go for the company. But food wise, there were like loads of like really nice restaurants around, and they were like relatively cheap, and there were like some pricey ones. So this is one of the things I did. I did go through a list of restaurants because I was like, I do want to try like a really good restaurant as well whilst I'm here, like a very nice restaurant, but I also wanted just to sample the restaurants around. And this was like the restaurant idea was also through recommendations from people as well, and also just the internet. Again, TripAdvisor was good, and just also other lists of like the best restaurants in Marrakesh and stuff like that. And this went for the same as the tourist things to do. So it was like via recommendations and also just Google and TripAdvisor, just to know exactly how much I was going to pay as well, whether we needed to book tickets in advance for things and that.
And
So it was like
your favorite restaurant and your favorite tourist thing to do?
Oh, it was okay. The restaurant was called Arabs, which is quite funny. It was in the market. It was like in the market, but like upstairs. So you kind of walk through the chaos of the market and the tanneries, and you sort of go upstairs and you sort of had the view. And also, these are considerations when you're around different countries. Not a lot of places serve alcohol, pretty much no alcohol. So there's like very specific places that serve alcohol. So with our cash, we had to like find out like what places would serve alcohol.
And they take credit card most of them.
Yeah, this was fun. So yes, a lot of places to credit cards, but my bank actually decided. I mean, I'd put it on online that I was going somewhere, right? So my card was supposed to be working. Luckily, I'd taken some money with me, but my card decides it's not going to work. I mean, I was lucky that I had cash with me, but I always like to have like cash as like a safety net as well. And so I had to get my friend. I had to transfer money into my friend's account and get my friend to Western Union money to me. And then I realized, hey, I can actually just Western Union money to myself to a different country, which was great. And again, due to the fact that we were living by the mall, the Western Union shop was just down the road. So it was all very great. So, convenience of the mall worked out lovely, But yeah, so that was fun. The card situation were like, oh, because like even though like because I was with one of my friends, like she had money on that, but still, I was just like, like it would be a good thing for me to like have money because we want to do like a lot of things. So luckily, the hotel we'd gone to, they had like a whole list of everything you can do, and they got discounts from these places. And like if you were to check the prices online for these places and how much the hotel was offering was like way less. So we just booked a whole itinerary of stuff through them. So that's why I needed the money because I was going to pay by card. So I had to like Western, like I think the first day I Western Union, like my friend Western Union to me. And then like the following like 2-3 days when I needed more money, I just did it myself. So yeah, it was fun. I think that was like the first Western Union transaction that I done. Really. So I opened a whole Western Union account for that because I think I'd only ever just picked up money. I'd never been, a sender of money. But yes, that's a good thing to think about. Western Union, great place. They're everywhere. So
there's another one.
Yeah.
I think Western Union is expensive now. So they have bunch
Oh,
of
is
them.
it?
They have bunch of them. World Remit is the one that is.
Oh, there's Wild Remit.
And then there's a whole bunch of other ones and a lot of like really interesting.
Okay, I know that, but the thing is that trust and believe. I know it sounds weird. Western Union is so established that you are going to find a Western Union pretty much everywhere. Does that make sense? Like,
it's like Coca-Cola.
Yeah, like you're gonna find a Western Union place. Like I said, I was clever enough. I wasn't not in the beginning, but second time round to be close to the mall. So I was close to all the good amenities, which is also good for transportation because all of the tourist sites we went to after the third day, we were taking public transport so cheap, so cheap. And it was just good because it was like buses went through through the mall, because it was like a main location as well, knowing like where you can be dropped off.
And like, which one was the tourist site that you're like, okay, this is worth my point?
Oh, okay. So there is the garden. It's called, I wanna pronounce this correctly. It's it's called the Blue Garden, but I don't know how it's Jardine. And it's like amazing. So this is like the Blue Garden, and it's got like it's a Yves Saint Laurent, which is the weirdest thing, but it's cool. For some reason, Yves Saint Laurent lived in Morocco for a while. A lot of his designs were inspired from Morocco. So he built this garden. Well, he helped build part of this garden, I guess. And it's like a lot of memorial from him, a lot of sketches from him. It's like a really beautiful place. And I think it was open certain times. And that was like a very cheap entry as well. It's one of the cheapest entries had. That was good. That was good. That was a beautiful site. It was a beautiful tourist site. And I just found it fascinating thinking about like a world designer and their connection to Africa and what people like sometimes take from Africa and so forth, and how Africa gets to inspire everyone else. But Morocco has a lot of tourist things to do, to be honest.
And the non-tourist things that you enjoy?
The non-tourist thing.
Yeah.
I think the non-tourist thing, the best thing you can do when you go to Marrakesh is go to the market. The market in Marrakesh is a life experience. Now, people had informed me, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, it's a very scary place. But you know what? Like, there's something about markets that I love in general. Number two, I'm African. I'm used to people like coming at you in the market or wanting to talk to you, you know, like, or like just talking, you know, like the little hustle and bustle of a market. Marrakesh is different though. Like it's a market on like on like 100. Okay, it is busy. It's busy. The people are talking to you. Everyone is trying to sell you something. And safety, you have to think about safety, because you have to think about having your bag on you. Let's just not have it like on the side, because people do grab on like motorbikes and stuff. And just so think about where you have your bags, think about how you have your phone, which is like general common sense sometimes, right? Just don't be waving your things about. But the market is an experience. It is so busy, so colorful. There's like 101 things you want to buy. I just wanted to take the whole market with me, just like uproot it and just go with it. And it was a beautiful experience. Went to like a tea place. No, actually it wasn't a tea place. We went to a place for like clay masks, like facial stuff, like facial place. And we're just there, we're talking, and I was telling the people like, oh, like, you know, like I'm Zimbabwean, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my gosh, you know, they were like talking about like Zimbabwean stuff to me, you know, just like that cool little African camaraderie you have sometimes. Just, it was super cool. And they were like, you know what, we're going to have tea with you. I am not even a tea drinker, right? But it was just like this very connected feeling. And they're like, oh no, you must have tea with us, you know, which is like a thing. Like everyone has tea in Morocco, but they were like, you know, you're like in our shop, you spent money, you know, like we have had like such a beautiful conversation. And, you know, just sat there with men who were like, you know, 3-4 times my age in just like the nicest, purest, innocent way. They were telling us stories about themselves, how it is. And we're also talking about like how they feel like with all, you know, the tourists and stuff. But it was just like the nicest experience ever. I can't even begin to explain to you how it is. It was just like so authentic, so nice, and like weirdly like nurturing, if that makes sense. They were just like, they were very nurturing, very interested in who like we were, and also just like very willing to tell us about themselves, who they were. So I think out of everything, that was like my biggest, like I connected with like the locals. I got to know a little bit more about the place.
And how long did you stay there? How long were you in Marrakesh for?
I was in Marrakesh for, I think it was 11 days.
11 days. And then like within the 11 days, like what is the couple of things that you could have done better in during your trip in terms of like navigating and negotiating things you wish that you had seen?
Oh, okay. So there's actually like a whole bunch of places to see. So even though like I had a list of places to go, I hadn't thought about the logistics of stuff. So if I had a better way to plan, I would have just gone, okay, we're in this part of town. So today we're gonna see this, this, and that. Tomorrow in this, because I was doing a lot of cross country and going down, you know, because there were times, I think there was a day where we dedicated to go into the desert for like 3 days and the mountains and that. So at least that was very encapsulated. With that, I was able to plan around what we were going to do in those places. But everything else, when we were just purely like in Marrakesh, it was very like sort of haphazard because I just went through a list. I didn't quite look at the map of the place and figure out, where everything is. I think it's also a good thing to think about local transport, because a lot of tourist places, it's very easy to like local transportation to the place. So you don't always really need to rely on things like what's it called, the taxes and that, because they can be a little bit expensive. And also, like if you're in a hotel and that, the locals, like the people at the hotel, will actually help you with better transportation than what you can organize for yourself in most places. Because I think we had a lot of like nighttime activities to do, so the hotel actually
Yeah.
nighttime. No, but Joe, it was very wholesome things. Which like we went and saw like sword fighting, like we went for very traditional things. There was like cave tours and that. So it was all this stuff, and the hotel arranged for our transportation back, which was just like very like so easy, and it made it good. It made like just the guarantee of like having that. And also with the taxis we used, we ended up getting the number of like one taxi driver, and he was just like our person, and he wasn't what's it called, ripping us off anymore, because like he ripped us off like the first couple times, but we like, dude, we know how much this is now. Like he was like, okay, it's fine, but we're like, we're gonna use you the whole time we're here, you're gonna make more money than you would anyway, do you know what I mean? Like, so he was just like, he was very nice. It was kind of funny. So he was yeah, so he was like our daytime person, but we did have someone from the hotel like arranged for us to be like picked up at night.
And throughout the whole trip, right? So it's day 11, right? You've gone to the mountains, you've come back, and it's the last night. What were your thoughts around your time there? And also, like, in terms of traveling with your friend, I think it's something that you can share. What were the logistics of like traveling with someone? Did you guys have similar interests? Did you guys want to do same stuff, or did you separate and do things solo and like do your own shares? And, yeah.
I think we did the same thing. A lot of when we're pre-planning, we we both went through the list of things to do, if that makes sense. I think she went and got stuff, and I went and got stuff, and we pretty much virtually had like the same list. I think it was literally more so adding on to the list, like, oh, you've got this or that. So that was kind of good. Just like we had similar interests. I guess it would be different if it was like individual stuff that we needed to do, but it was just like, yeah, we had similar interests, so it was like quite nice. What did you ask me? What did I think about on the last day?
The last day, so like the reflections that you had, like you have like this
I
last day,
think
push
I
and kiss, and it's been
like
10
I
days.
think it was just amazing. We like I was very tired. I was very tired. I remember on the last day, I was so tired. Like I was sad to leave, but also like, oh gosh, I'm like so tired because we were, like you wake up when you're on holiday. I have a thing. I'm not a lay on the beach girl. I don't know how people do that. I think it sounds great to some people, but like the sort of that on holiday, I'm just like what am I doing? So we were like, wake up, have breakfast. Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going? It was like literally, like, I think we had like a time where we'd come back like late afternoon for like a nap or something, and like it'd be like dinner. What are we doing after dinner? What's like it was very like go, 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 go. So I feel like I think I thought a lot more about like, you know, the energy of the city, the people I'd met, because I met so many lovely people. So it was like, I think it was like reflecting on just like how different of a culture it was to anything I'd ever experienced. I mean, I think there was a Friday. So I'd been to the market a couple times because I was obsessed with that market. And it was just like a nice thing to do, just like go and have lunch there and stuff. Um, there was like Friday prayers, so everything closes down. And it was like this very strange feeling of like going through the market where it's like just empty. And I just found that so amazing. I think I thought about the world in terms of religion, like how religion just shapes our everyday lives, and how, like a different religion can make a place feel so much more different to everything else you used to. I was just like so fascinated by it all. Yeah, I think I thought a lot about the architecture, like, oh my gosh, like people really have different ways of thinking, ways of wanting to live, because like architecture kind. Of reflects that sometimes. So I think that, yeah, did go and say bye to a lot of people. We made a lot of friends. Like the place where we had like dinner. So we ended up like most of the time having dinner at this restaurant that was like quite near, just to allow us to have dinner, come back, and then go out again. So we're like friends with everyone there. They were like, because they were trying to make us go through the menu so we could have different stuff. So went and said bye. And that was really lovely. And just, yeah, I think, yeah, it was a beautiful time. I think the last day was just like going, oh my gosh, I've done so much. I've seen so much of a place, and it's been a great experience. And do not get hustled by taxi drivers.
And like with that note, like one thing, like I think the one thing that the trip taught you, like about yourself, like, is there something that the trip, like you can look back now and be like,
I am not a panicky person. Like, I think being homeless, being literally homeless in a different place in the world, it would be stressful, but it was kind of funny to me. I was finding the whole thing. I was glad that we arrived in the afternoon, so we had like so much time. So I realized that I'm like very like resourceful, because I was the one who had to get our money back from the lady. So I had to do a lot of ma'am, this is not gonna ride. So I think I'm not as stressed out as I think I am. I'm resourceful. I didn't realize I was that resourceful. So I'm okay under pressure. And apparently, like, I'm very firm when I want something. So I didn't realize that. Apparently, if it's my money, I don't play games. If it's my money, there's no jokes, there's no funniness. I get serious.
money. And
Yeah, it's like,
are you thinking of traveling Africa again in the future? And where are you thinking of going?
well, okay. I mean, everyone has a list, right?
Yes.
I know I'm going to travel to South Africa. That's a guarantee, right? That's like a guarantee. But there are places in Africa that I need to see. Like, there are places that it needs to happen. Kenya, Congo, Egypt. Those three are like the places that I need to go to.
Kenya,
Like,
Congo, Egypt.
Kenya, Congo, Egypt, right? It's like very specific. Egypt is very self-explanatory, the pyramids. Congo, I feel like it's like the center of our continent. And I feel like a lot goes on there. Also, if you've ever met Congolese people, they're the craziest people you'll ever meet. I need to go and understand what's going on there. I need to go and see it for myself in the place. And Congo has like a beautiful jungle. Like, so I want to experience Congo in a very weird way. I want a little bit of the tribal feel. We'll see how that works out. But yeah, Kenya, I just want to go on the safaris in Kenya. I know that's
Not
what I want to
Zimbabwe.
do.
Not Zimbabwe. You don't want to do like safari in Zimbabwe or South Africa?
Well, you see, South Africa, my brother lives in Nelspruit, so in Mpumalanga. So I feel like I've experienced. There's so much more. South Africa's never ending the things you could do. So I like, because the option is there. It's just there for me. I know I can experience so much more in South Africa, but I really want to go to like, yeah,
Masai Mara and Serengeti.
yeah, Serengeti. Like, I really want to do that. See, one of the reasons I went to Morocco is because I wanted to go in the desert. and meet the Beba. So I got to do that, ride camels in the desert, stay in the desert, meet the Beba. That was like what I wanted to do. Egypt, I want to go and see the pyramids. Kenya, I want to go on like safaris. Congo, I want to go to the jungle. I want to see the towns of people, but I also specifically want to see, the Congolese jungle in some aspect, because I think a lot of people don't realize that's like our lungs. Like the Congo jungle is our lungs in Africa. That is, the air we breathe in that part. It's like our Amazon, and it's just like such an important part. And yeah, I would like to sort of somehow maybe stay there for a little bit, or figure out something when it comes to Congolese jungle, or just experience Congo really, because I feel like there's so much culture there, the music, gosh, the food, the people, everything. Yeah.
And for people that are interested to learn more about like your PhD and the work that you do, and to support and follow you, where can they find that information?
Well, some of us are not on social media. Thank you.
You don't have an academic website with like your
wow, gosh.
papers
Okay,
and-
I don't know. I feel like for my papers, you have to like search my like full name. So you know what? When I'm the first author on the papers, I'll be going for direct shout outs.
Okay. No, thank you so much for the time, and like we thought it was going to be like a quick 30 minutes.
I talk a lot, so it was never going to be a quick thing.
Thank you so much. And then like I feel like
Yeah.
The name should go back to that African trip, and then
That African trip. Yeah, I think so. That's the last African trip.
yeah.
My last African trip was in South Africa. I can tell you about that. I mean, it was fun, but listen, nothing will ever top Morocco.
Wait till you go to Congo. Wait till you go to Congo.
I know I'm gonna have a great time in all those places.
Thank you so much for taking time to chat with me, and for everyone listening, please follow. We don't have hashtags yet for the channel and for the podcast, that we are going to be in the future episodes. Use social media strategies and distribute it more. But wherever you find your podcast, you'll find it. Spotify, Google, Apple Music, etc. And sponsor the podcast. There will be a link below to drop your coins and get a shout out and support.
He's gonna have a Patreon, so you're gonna have half of this podcast, and then you're gonna have to pay for the other half.
Oh yes, I have a Patreon. It's
Exactly.
patreon.com/Trevor. Drop your coins. I haven't set it up. I took the options behind the membership that comes.
It's okay. By the time this drops, he'll set that up, so it's fine.
It's set up. You can still pay me.
Okay.
But sponsor the thing description. Bye guys.